Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another live Pittsburgh Sportsline in the BPTV studio. I'm Al Levine, the talking machine. Healing up better every day. Kidney update. Don't have to go back for 2 weeks. It's been every week, but I progressed so much that they took my staples out today. The scar's looking good, and it'll show up when I wear my bathing suit. But other than that, I'm doing well. Got to keep taking my medicines, get my blood tests every week. And I'm just happy to be here doing a show. Chip Hayner's with us. Smoking Jim Frazier, who's been out on a mysterious, we don't know what's happening.
Sabbatical. We'll call it a sabbatical.
Okay. He was doing some research off the record. Couldn't get back to us till this week. We're glad he's back. His phones blew out. He's now got... He'll explain it later with his iPhones, 777s, maybe 777s. Who knows what's going on, but welcome back. Thanks, everybody, for praying for Smoking Jim. I asked for it last week, and look, he's here. That's our man. I got a lot of great sports to talk about, of course, and I got some promos. First, we got to thank Olive Oil's Pizzeria, if they can pull that up. 412-831-1900, Hillcrest Shopping Center, Olive Oil Pizzeria. They got all kind of specials, great Italian food, great ingredients, and they're right here 5 minutes away from our studio, and they sponsor our show. Thank you very much, Frank Fanero, owner of Olive Oil's Pizzeria. Next up, Bethel Park Historical Society, 2600 South Park Road. They do a lot of great things. They have an open house this Sunday on the 13th from 10 o'clock till like 1 o'clock. Go there. They'll have a lot of activities and maybe food to snack on. Maybe Smoking Jim can come out. Hang out at the Reginald's Coffee, my favorite place where I get my green tea. That'll be Sunday. I'm going to stop in there. I'm a big fan of the Bethel Park Historical Society. Next up, we end each show with Stay Joey Strong. This is Joey before DIPG, after DIPG, the brain cancer that took his life before he was 10 years old. The last 5 years, they've been running fundraisers, and you can go to Joey Favis Childhood Cancer Foundation, donate money, donate your time for their events. They just had a great 5K 1-mile walk run at the Bethel Park High School, raised a lot of money. 500 people showed up to participate. It was great. Next up, Bethel Park Community Foundation. I'm a trustee on the board. We have money for you, $100 to $5,000. They have the money. Get it on their website, bpcf.org. Get an application. Come on up and say why you need it for your group and the things you want to do in Bethel Park. They've given out over $100,000 this year, so they have money for you. Next up, Dave Cable likes to have a little fun at my expense. Put my face on Uncle Sam. Tell them Uncle Al sent you. Al Levine, the talking machine, wants you to be a volunteer like Zach, who's having his last day here, and our Rookie of the Year, now MVP, Steve Fisher, running the audio, running the cameras. They do a heck of a job. Give a call, 412-831-3304. Tell Dave Cable you want to be a volunteer. Next up, Bethel Park Community Foundation has their biggest fundraiser of the year. We're going to have Steve adjust this. Look at the size of this poster. It is on, let me see, November the 3rd, Crown Plaza, November 3rd.
That's a Sunday.
November 3rd. Yeah, it always is. It's their biggest fundraiser of the year. They have so many people with food. I enjoy it each time because I like to eat. I may be a little restricted this year because of the kidney transplant, but I will do my best. They have food. They have desserts. Bethel Park Bakery has these Buckeyes that are my favorite treat. I try to have at least 3 or 4 of them, maybe 5 or 6, but they're good, and they got food from a lot of local restaurants. Just check it out. It's $50 a ticket. They have raffles, unlimited food, beer, and wine sampling. You can't go wrong there. It's from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And yes, Smokin' Jim, it's a Sunday. Plenty of sponsors. You can get tickets at EV Hardware or bpcf.org. Get your $50 ticket. You'll get so much food and great things there that you won't be disappointed. It's always a sold-out thing with over 300 people. So come on out there. We'll have a fun Sunday, 5 o'clock to 8. Next up, we have a sponsor for What's on Your Mind. Skeets Lewandowski of Skeets Service Station sponsors that. Give him a call, 724-348-4715. He works on anything and everything that runs on gas. Believe me, I've had issues with my car, and he's worked on it and fixed it each time. So I'm a big fan of his. I can't eat at a smorgasbord anymore because I have to watch salty food and things like that. So I won't be eating at that smorgasbord every Monday. But I appreciate what they do there. There's a lot of great conversation out there, talking sports, talking boxing. And Skeets suffers from CTE like Smokin' Jim. So you can repeat your stories and jokes to him all the time because he appreciates them. Just like my man, Smokin' Jim Lazarus. Tonight he's Lazarus on Pittsburgh Sportsline. And I got to ask Smokin' Jim Frazier, what's on your mind?
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. And if you want the green,
I'm going to do it slow.
you got to see Levine. Back to my old high school quarterback option.
What year was that?
Old Twinkle Toes.
What year was that?
Well, I'll tell you what, Al Levine, the talking machine, and Chip, and Zach Taylor, and Rookie of the Year, Steve Fisher. I know everybody got to agree with me on this.
That was Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, he changed his. Oh yeah, Zach Taylor. That's Zach Wilson. Zach Taylor's out Monroe.
I'm just trying to help you, buddy. I know you suffer a little bit, so I'm trying to walk you through
Zach
it.
Taylor goes to Gateway.
No, he don't. He'll never
Not
go.
anymore?
Never went there.
Okay, I thought by now.
You're so delirious that we're just glad to have you back, Lazarus.
Still
That envelope with the money in it, it stopped showing up.
Stop showing
So he stopped going.
But
When he found out he didn't own a dog, that ruined all your credibility.
Cone.
The co-owner didn't work because the dog's not with you.
But I'm sure you guys will all agree with this.
No.
You know, everybody may not like Antonio Brown, but the one thing about him, he's brutally honest. And we all have to agree when Antonio Brown said last year that Juju fumbled away the playoffs. Not only did he fumble away the playoffs last year, but he fumbled away the season this year. And here's a little advice for Juju, and you guys know I'm not a Juju fan because he doesn't take football as serious as he takes his social media. But Juju, don't give advice to a rookie receiver who fumbles on national TV on Monday night because you are the fumbling machine. That's what coaches is for. Don't nobody need Juju to come up and tell them how to hold the football when he carries it like a loaf of bread. Another thing, in my draft report, everybody knows I love Mason Rudolph. I compared him to, I said he was a blend between Aaron Rodgers and Lenny Dawson. I got the utmost respect for the kid, even though I rated his performance on TV last week.
You mean after the hit?
I rated his performance as a D- because he has not been looking for James Washington. I felt like he's been shutting James Washington out. Kind of reminded me of 1968 when
Were you around then?
when Roy Jefferson was tied going into the 14th game of the season, the last game of the season, with Danny Abramovich from New Orleans Saints.
Whoa, I remember him.
And Charlie Taylor with 67 catches. And he said when he was interviewed how they liked the rookie quarterback, Terry Hamratty. He said he's going to be good, but he's still got a lot to learn. And Hamratty never looked his way in that final game, and he ended up finishing third. in the league instead of winning it. Listen, I say this to say this. Everybody knows I had season tickets to the Steelers since I was 4 years old.
When was that?
I used to go to the game to see the stretcher come out. So, I mean, I enjoyed that.
You're like those guys at NASCAR. Yeah. They want the crashes.
I mean, Mason Rudolph was knocked out before he hit the ground.
What happened to the cart? They couldn't take him off. It wouldn't start.
You know, that was one of the most ridiculous things I ever seen in my life. Of course, Coach Tomlin again, which I hope he goes to the Washington Redskins. They want him. But, I mean, it's just ridiculous. How do you got a guy walking off the field?
Unconscious.
First of all, they took the face mask off. He looked like it was 1912 again. And then you got him staggering his way off the field.
He was talking,
all the way up the ramp.
He was talking.
Yeah. I wonder what he was saying.
He says, I'm good. Yeah. You could read his lips. I'm good. They go, we didn't ask you anything.
Yeah, so it's very ridiculous. But, hey, it did my heart good. I love the Burfict hits, even on Antonio Brown, who I care a lot about. And I enjoyed that hit on Mason Rudolph. I live for stuff like that. I hope the kid comes back. I hope he's like Tommy Maddox and can get right back on.
We got to have
course.
a disclaimer. These are Smoking Jim's only opinions. I don't agree with it at all. I don't like to see anybody get hurt on the field.
He just got knocked out.
That's pretty severe. Smoking, you're out of control.
Although Juju was crying.
Yeah.
He didn't cry when he cheap shot at Burfict, but now he wants to cry. He celebrated that. Now he wants to cry. He's all.
Well, he cares about Mason Rudolph.
Phony baloney is what he is. But anyhow, that's what's on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Chip Hayner, I got to take a pause after that. Sorry, buddy.
That's fine.
I got to try to digest that. We were praying for Smoking Jim, and he come back. The devil's in him tonight. He's got the devil in him. Look at him. There's a God-fearing man, but he got the devil coming out of him. All right, Chip Hayner, what's on your mind?
Well, got to say, you are entertaining. Though somehow the facts seem to escape him.
Again.
Oh, yes. Like Antonio Brown does not think about his social media account first before anything else. How about when he went Facebook Live in the locker room after a playoff win? Yeah, that was really.
Did that happen?
Yeah, that was a strong act by a strong team player who was looking out for the welfare of his teammates. But that being said,
he's going to choke on that pizza.
And it's funny how Jim, he and I tried to communicate with him. He doesn't return my texts. I send him messages, and I get dead air.
Crickets.
So we don't get a chance to practice or rehearse what we're going to do. Yet somehow he seems to my commentary dovetails right out from where Jim went. But the first thing I got to say is the NFL got it right. Vontaze Burfict, suspended for this season. He doesn't belong in the NFL. He's gone. He's done. Okay? So that's what people want to see.
I second that.
People don't want to see him trying to knock people out of football games. But here's my point. I've always loved the NFL. I fell in love with the NFL with Vince Lombardi's Packers of the 60s.
Whoa.
Okay? When they won 5 championships in 7 years. That's when I started watching professional football. That's when my hatred for the Dallas Cowboys started. And to this day, that fire burns bright.
Chip, I got to interrupt you. The Packers were my team because the Pittsburgh Steelers
stunk.
Were the same old Steelers.
People wonder why am I so passionate about the Pirates? Because for most of us that were born in a certain era, they were the first professional team that was worth rooting for in Pittsburgh.
And they won championships.
Yes, they did. So, I had some time off this weekend. I got all caught up on my work, and I got home at about 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, and I got myself a nice little nap so I could watch the Steeler game. And I sat and watched the entire Steeler game. And it actually was quite an entertaining game. Yes, there were some horrifying parts of it. Watching Mason Rudolph get hit and go completely limp and almost lifeless was was kind of shocking. But here's the thing that I have taken away from the NFL and what they're trying to do. And you know, people argue that they're just simply trying to get things right. Well, I'm watching a game that over the course of a game between the two teams, counting the penalties that were accepted and the penalties that were declined, there was close to 30 penalties in that game.
Wow.
The NFL game is getting to a point where it is unwatchable. There's too many stoppages of play. And why is it that you can review potential pass interference but no other infraction on the field?
Oh, right.
You know, like an illegal hit, a chop block, you know, just, you know, the list goes
Even an
on and
offside.
on.
How about
so,
an offside
So
or
if
two?
you were going to be able to review one penalty, or one foul, why can't you review them all? That's kind of ridiculous. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because instead of a 3-hour football game, well, now they're 3.5 hours. But you'd have an 8.5-hour game because after every single play, you'd have to send a review up to the booth. And even though they have replay, and I am totally against replay in all sports, period. Let the call on the field stand
Except
the way
baseball.
it always has. The way it always has. And here's the reason why. People, we've got a whole generation of people that insist that they want to see people get things right. Well, if you want to get things right, stay on your Xbox, play your Sega Genesis or whatever it is you want to play, and get it right there because that's not the way things are in the real world. And here's what happens. More often than not, after slowing it down to the, you know,
Yeah.
to the micro, they get it wrong anyhow, you know?
Yeah.
And what they do is they word the rules so that, you know, you need a PhD to understand the language. And we're talking about football players, okay? Most of these people are prime candidates for CTE if they don't already have it, okay? So we're not talking about Mensa candidates here, but, you know, they come across as being all-knowing. And I'm just, like I was just saying, to me, the game is getting to the point where it's unwatchable. And that's not just the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's any game I watch. You know, you've got 3 seconds of action and 2.5 minutes of analyzing it
Reaction.
and breaking it down. And it's like, come on, would you please just get on with it? But you want to know what's on my mind? That's what's on my mind. The NFL, you're ruining a $14 billion business.
Wow. Thanks, Chip Painter. What's on my mind? Baseball.
There you go.
I've been watching baseball, and the Yankees always been one of my favorite teams. I had a young friend of mine that was named after Mickey Mantle, so I gravitated towards that. And always a fan of the Yankees, read the history of them from Babe Ruth on, how he was a Red Sox. And what do you got, Smoking?
He's got his pinstripes
Our
on.
Yankees. Our Yankees.
Smoking Jim's a true front runner. Not a big fan of baseball. Just jumps on the bandwagon because that's what he knows how to run. But what's amazing is the Yankees are crushing the Twins, and they've beat them, like Chip and I were talking, like 13 times in a row. You would think, even by accident, that they'd win one and stop that streak. It's one of the longest losing streaks in North America right now. So go Yankees. They're performing. They only hit 306 home runs. And guess who beat them? Minnesota, 307. With a world record year of, what, 6,776?
6,776 home runs.
I
hit
remembered
this
when you
season.
said it. So
Well, if you watched last week, we went into great detail about the home run epidemic this year.
And guess what? Girls like the long ball.
Ladies love
They're
the
big
long
fans
ball.
of it. So it's been nice watching that. Then I'm watching St. Louis. I've been an on-again, off-again fan of St. Louis. I like how they run their operation. They're always competitive. They always have players coming up through their farm system, or if not, they'll trade for a player or two. And Yachty was something else last night. Tied the game, then won the game with a walk-off. Just unbelievable what a clutch player he's been his whole career. I'm impressed by it. Plus, he's stopping these wild pitches above his head, in the ground. He's constantly there. And then he has a cannon for an arm. when he fires that ball, you better be prepared. If it were Smoking Jim, he'd get hit in the head. So he wouldn't catch it. But those things happen. But it's fun watching the baseball, division series. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. Being a little laid up and having to relax. I've watched every game there's been on there, so it's a lot of fun, a lot of great activity. And what about Verlander? Unbelievable. Look at Max Scherzer. Look at his pitching.
Oh, yeah.
And then how about this guy? I can't remember. He was with us, Garrett Cole.
Mm-hmm.
How does he do it? Then I'm watching another guy who I liked when he was here, but I wondered how his fastball got up to 98 miles an hour. I saw it the other day. Charlie Morton, who's won games in the postseason and is doing it again. So, my hat goes off to these ex-Pirates. They had to get away from this pitch to contact thing, and all of a sudden their fastball's 3 to 6 miles per hour faster. And Garrett Cole's being mentioned for Cy Young in the same breath as, let me say it, Justin Verlander. So that's what's on my mind. Enjoy the baseball. There's games tonight. Just keep watching. It's a lot of fun, and you see some of the greatest baseball players in the league, and they're hitting the heck out of the ball. So it's great.
And to speak to Alan's point, this past weekend, I watched more baseball games on TV this weekend than I did football.
Wow. You only watched one football game. Smoking, it's not hard to figure out. How many games did you watch, Smoking?
I was pulling for Duke to beat Pitt, and they almost came back.
Yeah. Mr. Negativity comes out again, folks. He's
And, speaking about the Pitt game, just think, if Narduzzi doesn't blow that call in the Penn State game, Pitt's 5-1.
Yeah.
Delaware should have beat them. They should maybe be 1-5.
Quoted. Any
But
more
guess
negative?
what they are?
Any more negative things?
4-2. So
Smoking Jim, you got anything more negative in the house?
I lost money on Kansas City.
Of course. Of course you did. All right, we'll be back with some fiction and fact from Smoking Jim, and stay ready because he'll be amazing.
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. Thanks, Chip Hayner. My man, Zach Wilson, in the house. And the Rookie of the Year, Steve Fisher, also a.k.a. MVP. Everybody, you know what? I know you guys won't agree with me, but you won't change my mind on this because I agree with Chip that they should take instant replay out of all sports except for baseball. You got to have the computer instead of an umpire in baseball. It's getting to that point, and hopefully I'll see it in my lifetime. But the fiction and fact from Smoking Jim's Almanac. Everybody know I was with the Steelers in 2000, and they fired me in 2001 and 2002. Brought me back in 2003. I drafted Ike Taylor, so I had a little wiggle room there. In 2004, the Pittsburgh Steelers needed a quarterback. Haven't drafted a quarterback high since Terry Bradshaw in 1970, even though they drafted Mark Malone in 1980 in the first round, but it wasn't a very high first-round pick. They were picking 11th, and Coach Bill Cowher coached the Senior Bowl that year. And he came back from the Senior Bowl, and he was just elated about this leader named Phillip Rivers. And Phillip Rivers at the time was probably a mid to late first round pick. Wasn't winning a whole lot of games at North Carolina State. I mean, they wasn't really on the big stage. He had a bad throw delivery because his dad was a football coach. And as a little kid, only how he could throw the football as a ball boy was like that, and he continued even though he had zip on the ball. But he was really an exceptional leader. Bill Cowher loved him when he coached him in the Senior Bowl game. And then all of a sudden, Phillip Rivers, like a lot of guys, even though he didn't do nothing at the combines to justify it, but his stock just skyrocketed to the point where the Pittsburgh Steelers had no ammunition to move up in the first round and get him. They settled for Ben Roethlisberger at the 11th pick, thinking that even though Ben was my number 1 rated quarterback.
Really?
Although I had Rod Rutherford rated pretty high that year too, and he never made the league. But but Ben ended up coming in, and you know the rest is history as a rookie. But Phillip Rivers is the only white legendary quarterback that I can remember. And if you look back on it, I predicted a few years back, even though Phillip Rivers is great, he'll never win a Super Bowl. Even though he's deserving of a Super Bowl, and it's because he's the first white quarterback with pedigree in the history of the National Football League that every single referee that I've ever talked to and I've ever heard about all hate his guts. Phillip Rivers will, if you watch, he gets more phantom calls against them because the referees hate him. He will chew out a referee in a minute. Phillip Rivers will chew out his coaches. He'll chew out his teammates. He's just a fiery guy from Alabama. And because of his passion and the way that he bends the ears of the referees, he'll never, ever win a Super Bowl. Last year, they were in good position to beat the Baltimore Ravens. And here come the flags because he was chewing on the referees. He was chewing them out all game. They all hate him. Off the record, many referees will tell you they hate Phillip Rivers. They hate his, and they will throw a flag.
Wow.
They will throw a flag and a phantom call in a minute to make sure that he doesn't advance. So I tip my hat off to him. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will go 1-5 because they ain't beating Phillip Rivers. But what a great guy. He was a guy that Bill Cowher initially seen, fell in love with, and who knows how his career would have went if he would have been a Pittsburgh Steeler. Hey, instead of having 9 kids, he might have had 15 kids by now if he was a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Maybe he only had 1.
Yeah.
To answer your question,
Yeah.
and so much for the fiction from Jim Frazier. Phillip Rivers would have been drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He would still be the only quarterback from that class without a Super Bowl ring.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He's not a leader because a leader doesn't berate his teammates, he doesn't berate his coaches, and he doesn't berate the officials. Just saying. He may be fiery, but he's a knucklehead.
Thank you, Smoking Jim and Chip Painter. Great add-ons to that Smoking Jim stuff.
Major League Baseball's postseason is in rare form. Tomorrow night, there are 2 Game 5s. And what's the significance of that, Jim?
I don't know.
Okay, because
win.
It's a 5-game series. So we have 2 Game 5s tomorrow. So that's winner goes
He
home.
don't know baseball.
Win or go home. Tonight, the Astros are playing the Rays. The game's going on right now. Justin Verlander's going pitching against, what do they call that? Starters by committee by the Tampa Rays. So we'll see. Pretty sure that Houston's going to close out the Rays, and they will be lining up against the Yankees. That should be an interesting series to watch. But Major League postseason is where legends are born. Over the history of baseball, we've seen pitchers absolutely dominate a series and carry their team to a title. And at other times, we've seen hitters do the same thing. The bright lights of baseball's second season have brought out the best in some athletes, and while it's brought out the worst in others. So without much more fanfare, I will start working on some of the 25 best postseason performers in Major League Baseball history. Number 25,
Reggie Jackson.
Barry Bonds.
All right.
Say what you will about Bonds, but the man could flat out hit. Though he has yet to admit it, there seems to be little doubt that he juiced. The bigger question is, when did he start? Not knowing that, we can't completely discount everything he did on the baseball's biggest stage in 208 plate appearances over 9 postseasons. He had an OPS of 936, only a 245 batting average, 9 home runs, and he batted in 24 runs. And scored 33 times and was walked an incredible 52 times. And how many championships did he bring to his team? None. Number 24, probably one of the greatest hitters that I've ever seen. perform in my lifetime, Tony Gwynn, one of the best pure hitters ever to play the game. Gwynn didn't see the postseason much, but when he did, he delivered. In 6 postseason series, Gwynn hit 306, 371 in 2 World Series appearances, knocked in 11 runs, scored 11 more, and hit 1 home run. Had he not been with the Padres and been with a team that saw more postseason games, little doubt that Gwynn would have put up his all-time best numbers.
I agree.
Number 23, Oral Hershiser. The Bulldog was one of the fiercest competitors
Yes, he was.
in history, and over the course of his 18-year career, put up numbers comparable to some of the all-time greats. And he never failed to find another level when the postseason rolled around. In 12 playoff series, including 3 World Series, Hershiser posted an 8-3 record, a 2.59 ERA, in 132 innings of postseason work, struck out 97, and gave up just 38 earned
The
runs.
Bulldog reminds me of Phillip Rivers.
Gives you Phillip Rivers?
Only this guy was better.
Yeah, only this guy won.
There's a difference between a leader.
And here's another steroid boy, Manny Ramirez. There's a lot to say about Manny, but in 23 playoff series, 285 batting average, 29 home runs, knocked in 78 RBIs. He had a 937 playoff OPS and drew a very Bonds-esque 72 walks.
Wow.
But he won championships.
Yeah. Something unusual.
Next up, Andy Pettitte, the
Wow,
New York
what a
Yankees.
pitcher.
In 32 playoff series, 276.2 innings of work over the course of his career, Pettitte notched 19 wins and posted a 3.81 ERA, striking out 183. 19 postseason victories is the most postseason victories for any pitcher in Major League Baseball history. Another of the great hitters of our era, Paul Molitor.
Oh, yeah.
Played for the Milwaukee Brewers in 132 plate appearances. Molitor batted .368, 6 home runs, 22 RBIs. In his 2 World Series appearances, Molitor hit .418, but he suffered the same fate as Tony Gwynn, being saddled with a club that didn't see the postseason often. Next up, Ken Griffey Jr. Not much happening there, not much action. Number 17, I want to get through these and still leave us time to talk about other things. Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, was always an above-average hitter during the regular season, but when October rolled around, he always found another gear. As his legend was born in the playoffs, he isn't called Mr. October for nothing. 17 playoff series, including 5 appearances in a World Series. Jackson hit .278, but his 18 bombs, 3 in 1 series game alone, knocked in 48 RBIs. He also scored 41 times and 885 OPS. I mentioned Roy Halladay. Roy Halladay went into the Hall of Fame this year, and may he rest in peace. Doc Halladay had a pretty good career. In his 3 playoff series, he did something that only one other pitcher has done. Pitched a no-hitter in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Larson,
Don Larson, yeah.
Don Larson threw the perfect game in the
In the World
1956 World Series.
learned something smoking Jim.
Doc never got to appearing only in 1 league championship, but like I said, he threw one of 2 no-hitters in playoff history. George Brett's on the list. David Ortiz with the Boston Red Sox. A gentleman named Vic Rashi. Another Hall of Famer here named John Smoltz. Then we get into another pitcher, Louisiana Lightning, Ron Guidry. He had a postseason mark of 5-2 with a 3.02 ERA. Next up, I couldn't pass this one up for my dear friend Alan.
Thank you.
The Babe, Babe Ruth. How could a list of the best without including the Bambino? The Bambino was unique in that he was not only a dominant hitter, he's also a pretty dominant pitcher. In 10 series over the postseason, Ruth posted a .326 batting average, 15 home runs, 33 RBIs, scoring 42 runs, in 2 postseason pitching appearances with Boston. Ruth went 3-0 with an outstanding 0.87 ERA.
Wow.
Ruth was unique in a lot of ways and was one amazing ball player in any era. Another victim of the steroid era, who, when he came up in 1984, I believe, was one of my favorite pitchers because he reminded me of a young Nolan Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
Roger Clemens. He may be a bit of a jerk, but he was one of baseball's most dominant pitchers over 24 postseason series. Clemens went 12-8 with a 3.75 ERA. He appeared in 6 World Series, going 3-0 with a stellar 2.37 ERA. He struck out 173 in 199 innings while walking just 70 and destroyed the dreams of a lot of batters.
That's my guy.
Next up on the list, the Iron Horse.
Oh.
Lou Gehrig, obviously the Yankees of the 20s and 30s, spent a lot of time in the postseason. He was often overshadowed by his teammates. He was always one of the steadiest, most consistent, productive hitters. He made a name for himself on a team full of big personalities. Of course, his .340 career batting average doesn't hurt either. His playoff average, .361 in 7 World Series appearances, 10 home runs, scored 30 times, knocked in another 35. Unfortunately, he succumbed to ALS. Next up, another one of Allen's.
Mickey.
We'll see. We'll see. Next up, Sandy Koufax.
Yeah.
One of the greatest left-handers of all
Now
time.
you're talking.
Plain and simple, Sandy Koufax was one of the most dominant pitchers to ever play the game. Over his 12-year career, he went 165 and 87, 2.76 ERA, 3-time Cy Young Award winner, 4 no-hitters, 4 World Series rings, won the Triple Crown 3 times. In the postseason, he only added to his legend by going 4-3, but posting a paltry 0.95 ERA over 57 innings of work.
Wow, that's impressive.
And then I think our next unanimous selection into the Hall of Fame, no less than Mr. Yankee himself, Derek Jeter.
Overrated.
His statistics in his career speak for itself. Nothing overrated about it, Jim. Hey, do you realize that he's the only Yankee player to have 3,000 hits in a Yankee uniform?
How many home runs?
Doesn't matter.
Look at Pete Rose.
Carlos Beltran, Kurt Schilling, the first unanimous selection into the Hall of Fame, Mariano Rivera. Just some bristle with the notion of the DH the legend of just as some might bristle with the notion of a DH being on the best of list, some might also take issue with a closer. Closers pitch limited innings, but they can effectively make or break a team's fortunes. In Rivera's case, he made the Yankees' fortune more often than he broke them. And in 96 postseason appearances, Rivera went 8-1. He notched 42 saves and posted an insane 0.70 ERA. It used to be said that if you're going to score runs on the Yankees, you'd better do it before the 9th inning. Otherwise, as you're good as done.
Say goodnight.
And last but not least, one of the most feared pitchers in the history of baseball.
One of my favorites.
Bob Gibson of the St. Louis Cardinals. Longtime pitcher for the Cardinals, 9-time All-Star, 2-time Cy Young Award winner, 2-time world champion. He was also 2-time World Series MVP with good reason. In 9 postseason appearances, 8 of them complete games.
Wow.
Gibson went 7-2 with 2 shutouts, posted an ERA of 1.89, won the 1967 World Series for the Cards, winning 3 games, all of them complete games, on his own. What he accomplished in his limited postseason experience is something no other major league pitcher will ever be able to touch.
Was Bob Gibson really that good?
Yeah, he was better.
Because he was so good, they lowered the pitching mound by 6 inches.
They changed the game because of him.
Really?
They
Just
lowered
like
the,
Mel Blunt.
They 1968, they lowered the mound by 6 inches because he had an ERA for that season of 1.12, I believe.
Yeah. And Smoking Jim.
For the season.
He was so aggressive, he threw inside all day long.
Really?
They'd complain about him. He'd throw more heat under their chin all day.
And
if you got him mad, look out.
And there wasn't a player that played that didn't have stitches tattooed on his rib
He
cage
hit plenty.
as a result of getting a little too comfortable in the batter's box.
Okay.
When they were digging in like they do nowadays, they
Yeah.
dig that back foot in.
Yeah.
He threw right at him.
Wow.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. You flip a bat on him, you won't do it again.
Really?
He may not be able to walk for a while either. Or talk.
Good stuff.
Thanks,
Good
Chip
stuff.
Hayner. Great stuff. Whoa. What's on my, or not what's on my mind, on location. Sorry about that. On location, Olive Oil's Pizzeria next Monday night. Smoking Jim said he'll be there. He missed our last show for some undeclared problem that we can't figure it out what's going on, but he knows, and the nurses know, and the doctors know. So we'll try to deal with it. A lot of people asked if Smoking Jim will be there next Monday. That's Olive Oil's Pizzeria on the 14th, 7:30 to 8:30. We got South Park Boxing Club coming in with 5 of their boxers plus Carmen Peluso, their coach and trainer. And I have an entrepreneur lady talking sports and business, Susan Miller, great networker in the area. So we got those guests lined up. And we may even have another special guest, Bill Franciscus, who's coaching in a military league and coached in Cuba. And he still plays baseball. So always good to have Bill on the show. He ended up coming to the show last night, and he said, "Where are you at?" And I said, "Next week." So he was there 1 week early, but he'll be there next week, and I'll try to get him on if we can fit him in. So check out the show. The food's great. Frank Fanero puts on a heck of a spread, Italian food, pizza, hoagies, you name it, and then Italian ice. It might be a little chilly, but I could go for an Italian ice next week.
Yes, sir.
And it's just a great location, 930 Brookline Boulevard towards the end. If you come up from West Liberty towards the other end of the boulevard, can't miss it. Parking on the street after 6 o'clock is free. So come on out, enjoy the show and the guests that we have. Then we're looking at a November show with Judge Arnone and doing a fundraiser type of thing sometime in November. We're looking at a location in Bethel Park. Basically, we got it approved. We just have to get the details, and that'll be a 7:30 to 8:30 show. Looking at November right now. Might be even December. We'll see if we can get it lined up. But it's always great to deal and work with Judge Arnone, and he brings a lot of people with him. So we'll have a fun night then. We'll keep you tuned on where it's going to be in Bethel Park. So that's what I have for On Location. We'll be back with some Steeler talk, and got to talk a little bit about the Penguins with the short amount of time that we have.
Stanley Cup final for the second year in a row, and here's Yager with the puck. Yager, nice move around Brett Sutter to the backhand. Lets it go, he scores!
Welcome back. We got some Steeler talk. Of course, we're disappointed in the Steeler record, 1-4. And Mason Rudolph got crushed on the concussion protocol. I'm sure he won't be back this week. And then next week we got a bye week, so he's going to be out at least then. The Duck Dynasty guy, Devlin Hodges, impressed me a little bit. I liked his attitude there, and I didn't realize he threw for 14,000 yards in college. So he's thrown the ball, and I think he can do it. But again, he's a rookie. These other teams are going to game plan for a rookie, and we all know how LeBeau used to handle the rookie quarterbacks. I think most of the defensive coordinators, except for Butler, know what to do. So we'll see what happens.
To be honest with you, though, the Steelers' defense has been improving week after week. But I want to speak to something that I think is pretty the fact that people are even considering it and even talking about it as being anything close to fact just makes me laugh. And that's the idea that Mike Tomlin would even entertain the idea of going to work for Daniel Snyder in Washington. That is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. Let me just paint a picture here.
Okay.
Every single business that Daniel Snyder has had anything to do with has failed. And he's failing miserably with the Washington Redskins to the point where they can't sell beer. They can't sell Gatorade in the stadium because there's nobody there to sell it to. And more importantly, if anybody has paid attention to the last 20 years that Daniel Snyder has owned the Washington Redskins, it is a coach's graveyard. Let me just give you a rundown of some great football coaches whose careers ended in Washington. The second time around, a 3-time Super Bowl champion Joe Gibbs. That didn't work out. Marty Schottenheimer, never to coach again. Steve Spurrier.
Yeah, how could
Great,
that?
one of the greatest coaches in the country, gone. I mean, Mike Shanahan, 2-time Super Bowl champion. What could he do in Washington?
Nothing.
Daniel Snyder is the kiss of death. Why would a coach want to go there and end his career? I mean, okay, maybe
For the money.
if the guy wants to give you $100 million guaranteed, pay you up front, yeah, I'll go and fall flat on my face and use that $100 million parachute.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin's not going to do that. Why would you go from coaching one of the marquee franchises in the NFL to the biggest train wreck this side of the Mississippi?
Doesn't make sense.
Snyder
started the rumor, said he'd be interested in him.
So how is that not tampering with somebody that is under contract? Now, for example, if he would have said, oh, Ben Roethlisberger's going to be a free agent at the end of this year, and I want him. Isn't that tampering?
Yeah.
Why would it be any different with a coach? And where is Roger Goodell putting a stop to stuff like this?
He's watching the concussion protocols.
Daniel Snyder must pay him well.
Well, what I'm looking forward to is I like to check things off, and I want to check off that Coach Mike Tomlin hasn't had a losing season yet, so let's check that off.
Well, we will. And if that does happen, we'll talk about that after Week 17. But there's still 11 more games yet to play.
And they got an easy schedule. But the Duck Dynasty, I tell you what, I've seen Steve Aaron McNair play in college twice. And I've never thought I'd ever see his record broken, and that's who Duck Dynasty broke Steve Aaron McNair's record, and it was just incredible. But here's something that you guys may not realize. The Pittsburgh Steelers getting the first-round draft choice ready. He may even be available this week, but Paxton Lynch, 6'5". Steelers seem to like him. He got a lot of zip on his ball.
What's he done?
But you know what? The reports that I heard is that his performance in practices has been leaves a little bit to be desired. And to be honest with you, because of the Ducks' experience in the Steelers' offense during the preseason and being on the practice squad this year, I think he's probably going to be a better option. Now, Paxton Lynch, yeah, he was a first-round draft pick, but he's flamed out in the first 2 places he's been. And, who knows? I mean, we've had 2 quarterbacks go down this year. Yeah. It could very easily, we could have a third go down. I mean, football's a violent game. And I will tell you this is something that I don't know many people have touched on. Jim talks about the curse of Fleury and the curse of this and the Barry Bonds curse and so on and so forth.
And the Steelers curse.
No, for some reason, the Pittsburgh sports teams this year have been bitten by the injury bug. You start with the Pirates, look at the Steelers, and now Evgeny Malkin is gone for at least a month with a lower leg injury, and who knows how long that's going to last. It's at least a month. So, he came
back in great shape.
He
looked fast.
Looked like he was going to have a big year, and what's going on with our sports teams? We've been you realize how fortunate we've been in the last decade or more that very few of our athletes suffered season-ending injuries.
I know the Steelers got a lot of brittle brothers, so that explains that.
So what does that say about Ben's flipper? Okay,
he's sticking to what he said, brittle brothers.
So
because he recognizes it.
But I will tell you this: I think one of the Steelers' biggest problems this year, more than anything else, is the lack of a running game, and the passing game, everything leads off the run. If they have to respect the run, that opens up the passing lanes, that opens up the field. You can start throwing the ball down the field. And I thought Mason Rudolph was doing, a decent job. I thought he was gradually getting more confidence and getting better. I was impressed with Duck.
Yeah.
This
I was
Sunday.
too. I like this performance.
I mean, he moved the team, and I thought when Tomlin decided to kick off to start overtime.
Oh, I
You
thought
know,
that was
my
crazy.
wife was asking me, why is he doing that? And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, look at how well the defense is playing. I said, you know, here's the thing. You know, if they score a touchdown on their first possession, the game's over. But if they don't, first team to kick a field goal, and I don't think he had the confidence in Duck to march the team down for a touchdown. But he did think that he could get them enough yardage
Here's what I
to be able to kick a field goal.
What I noticed during the game, and I thought it was odd, Tucker got one of the most powerful legs in history. And I'm looking at him kick the ball perfectly to the 2-yard line. And we're getting stopped on the 10-yard line to start the game, put us in the hole for the rest of the game. And then the other times they kicked off, 2-yard line. And what are we getting? Tackled at the 15, 10, 12. We didn't go past the 20-yard line.
Because when he kicks the ball, he gets
4.5 second
He gets
hang
hang time, so they're down there to cover the kick. Where, you know,
and it's a brilliant strategy. Belichick's the one that started doing that a few years ago. Kick to the 2 or 3 yard line, make them return because I know my guys can tackle.
Yeah.
And that's what the Ravens were doing perfectly.
Because he was known to be one of the few kickers that, because the Ravens used to try to get it league to approve 1 point if you kick a field goal from kickoff.
Yeah, if you kick
do it.
And I'm going to tell you something. You know,
he's powerful.
You know, if Tucker played on our team, I would love him. But man, that guy just does not. He comes to Heinz Field. He owns that stadium. I don't think he's ever missed a kick there, has he?
No, he was kicking 55 to 60 yarders before the game. I was listening on WDVE, and they were saying, look at kicking the ball, or Tucker kicking the ball.
There's a reason why he's the highest paid kicker in the league.
And you could see that. So I understand Tomlin's decision. And
then, you know, when it worked out for him, the defense got the defense.
They held him.
3 and out. They held him. Okay, they got 3 and out, and then, you know, unfortunately,
fumbling machine.
You know, and that's something that's bitten the Steelers. James Conner, same thing.
But to go back to your point, the Steelers, and I said it coming into the season, the Steelers, it all starts with the offensive line. And the Pittsburgh Steelers not going to have a running game until they hire offensive line coach.
Where's Munchak?
You lose Mike Munchak, then you hire his coffee boy. You can't do that. He's doing a terrible job, not making adjustments, not helping the offensive line out at all in this.
And here's the thing that, you know, I believe that to a point, but not wholeheartedly. And here's the reason why: you got 3 of the 5 members of that offensive line that played the Pro Bowl last year. Now you're telling me these guys don't know how to run block, they don't know how to pass block, and before Ben got hurt, you know, he was getting hit, and we still weren't running the ball then. And you know, so I mean, they are not blocking with a purpose. They are not blocking with violence. You know, they are not trying to draw. They're getting pushed back by other teams' defensive line. That's difference in the game. I mean, right there, because, you know, if your offensive line is aggressive and always moving forward on run blocking, the holes are going to open up.
They don't know where the grenades are. That's the offensive line's coach's job to let them know where the grenades are. They're just running around and not having enough players to block.
You
can't hire Coffee Boy. I said that before the season.
You did. You're still consistent. We appreciate your negativity, Smoking Jim. You can check that off.
But I'll tell you what, you know, a lot of people wrote off the Steelers, and you know what, they're going to surprise a few people along the way. And you know,
they have some players.
Hey, as long as you got somebody like Baker Mayfield in your division playing against you. I mean, did you see the performance he had last night?
Yes.
Yeah, he's cocky. Well, not so much anymore.
Wait, I remember
8 of 22.
Wait, I remember a guy
2 interceptions and
wearing
a fumble.
Browns stuff, talking about how they're the best team. They'll be in the Super Bowl.
They'll beat the Steelers twice.
Listen to Smoking Jim Frazier. He's got that negativity, but he's not wearing Brown stuff. He went with the front-running Yankees.
They're in second place in the division.
I know. As well they should. It's the weakest division in football.
And they're only 1 game ahead of the Steelers.
Well, thank you, everybody, for watching the show. Thanks for praying for Smoking Jim. I still don't understand what he's talking about, but please stay Joey strong.